Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's the Jacked Up Review Show.
Join us as we cover many an insane movie and numerous cult TV phenomenons. Are you ready to get jacked up? Are you with us? Then listen on.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. It's a Jacked Up Review Show. Jacked Up Review Show.
Now going on to Gherman. How are you, buddy?
Yo, hey, what's up? Sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, so I may be coughing.
Oh, you sound good to me. So, I don't think the mic's going to pick that up.
So, The Omen.
What was your intro to that? Did you see that in the theater or just regular TV kind of?
Yeah, it's 76, so I was, 11? Yeah, I believe I went and saw this in the theater, the first one, obviously, in the theater. And I have to say, The Omen is probably my favorite horror movie of all time. I mean, even more
nice.
so than Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Omen. And I like it. You always get into the Omen versus the Exorcist.
We were
argument
mentioning
with
that
people,
earlier. How they're
And
kind of cousins.
I have to go with The Omen myself because it's much more atmosphere. I find it much more frightening than The Exorcist. The Exorcist was more of a gross out. I mean, it's scary. Don't get me wrong. I love The Exorcist, but yeah, if I had to pick one over the other, I would go with The Omen. I love everything about it. It's great to see Gregory Peck in a horror movie.
Right. And then I mentioned how this was kind of 2 years before he does The Boys from Brazil. He's doing a lot of other just kind of, he's still kind of in Cape Fear mode, but he's just older, more respectable. You're used to seeing the bearded, philosopher look.
Yeah, he was Atticus Finch, for crying out loud.
Right, there you go. And to kill Damien, not a mockingbird, but to kill Damien.
Yeah, to kill him. With the daggers of Megiddo.
Definitely. I know my mother never saw this, but I know my father and uncle would reference this from time to time because they were, pop culture savvy. And just, I mentioned earlier how the A&E and AMC channels would show this quite a lot. Recent years, the HBO stations have been showing it quite a lot because it's part of the Fox vault.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, feeling down? Feeling low? Not enough podcasts about movies in your life? Why not try
They must be destroyed on sight.
the new podcast Cure-All, sure to get you right with the world and on a path to better living. We have exploitation, we have Italian horror, we have zombies, we have slashers, we have crime films, we have spaghetti westerns, we even have sci-fi and sex comedies. So take a dose of
They must be destroyed on sight.
as needed and let the hosts, Lee Russell, Daniel Harper, Paul Romali, and the odd guest host cure what ails you.
Warning, may cause atrophy, African consumption, black fever, bone shave, chin cough, colic, cramp colic, dropsy of the brain, elephantitis, grocer's itch, jaundice, mania, miasma, mortification, palsy, Pott's disease, rheumatism, scurvy, St. Anthony's fire, summer complaint, and worm fit in some people. Consult a physician before listening.
Hey, I heard you like movies.
I heard you like to hustle.
I heard you like podcasts.
Well, guess what?
There's a podcast for you out there called The Home Video Hustle.
Damn right.
Every Friday, we talk about whatever movie PJ picks out the bag. What does that mean? Every Wednesday on our YouTube page, I put a bunch of movies in a bag, and PJ picks one out at random. And then we just watch it. We talk about it for maybe like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever we feel like doing, wherever the conversation leads us.
But do we actually talk about the movie?
Most of the time. Tangents galore.
Yes.
So believe me, we may be a movie podcast, but it's not always about movies. We might talk about video games,
Music.
Yeah, that's the big one. Music. Sometimes we might get a little bit of politicalness in there.
Yes.
Sometimes we may just, we know what we like to do. We like to tell stories, PJ.
Yeah, yes.
I am the master storyteller
Yes.
of the podcast realm. Undefeated. So if you like to hear about movies, video games, whatever foolishness comes to our mind, the most random stuff you could think of, check out the Home Video Hustle. You can find us on the Stitchers,
Yes.
the Google Play,
Yes.
Apple Podcasts,
What else?
Podbean,
What else?
Podcast Addict,
Goddamn.
all that. Ain't no reason you can't get your hustle on. We everywhere, worldwide, baby.
Hustle, motherfucking hustle.
Hey, we can't cuss in the promo, PJ.
Ah.
We gotta be family friendly. There may be podcasts out there that don't want his hair say
Ah.
all that good fun stuff.
Well, you.
Yeah. don't run the listeners away, PJ.
Ah, I'm sorry.
But this is going kind of long.
Yes.
So we'll end this and say, hey, check out the Home Video Hustle every Friday on all the various podcast outlets. Peace.
Peace.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster. And while Witch didn't make it to the top of the world, he did make the Gangs of Hollywood podcast. So join the gang and enjoy a movie review podcast about movie gangs, gangsters, mobsters, and the mayhem they cause. You can find GOH Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at GOH Pod at www.gohpod.com, as well as your favorite podcast listening app. And remember, say hello to your little friend for me.
If you take two old punk rockers who are past their prime, put them in front of a movie screen, and give them a podcast, what do you get? Cinema Punks. Cinepunks. It's the mixtape of movies.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of it.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was
How
going to be a
could you
rough
watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Hey everybody, I'm Corey.
And I'm Zach, and we're the hosts of Podcasting After Dark, a cast dedicated to late-night horror and sci-fi of the 80s and 90s, often found on HBO and Cinemax.
You know, the movies your parents didn't want you watching as a kid. You can find us every other week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and Stitcher.
This is what you want.
This is what you get.
It's time, let's check our cue, baby. Pair it with a couple brews, baby. We love good movies. We love the bad ones too. So we watch them all and pass their lessons on to you. Oh yeah. Everything I learned from movies helps to make life a little bit groovy. With a one-liner plot holes and gratuitous movies. It's time to get busy with your friend Steve and Izzy. At eilfm.podbean.com.
Hi, everybody. It's Mac Jackson. I wanted to invite you to a new site called the Forever Adventure Network. This website has everything: pictures, videos, blogs. There's original music by Harmony Constant, 2 podcasts. One is the MacGyver podcast, where we celebrate Richard Dean Anderson, his iconic roles, and how it's influenced our lives. There's episode discussions, interviews, and life conversations. The second podcast is the Never Gets Old podcast, where we celebrate all the best things that we love in life, from TV, movies, music, and comics. The site is also the home for the MacGyver SG-1 audio series, an ongoing adventure series that continues the adventures of MacGyver and SG-1. There are also multiple stores to choose from for all of your pop culture and adventure needs. Come on by and check us out today. And thanks for joining the adventure.
We now continue with our program.
Did you ever see part 3? And what's your take on that? Because I know part 2 is kind of just...
Okay. Well, I've seen the first 3. I'm pretty familiar with all of them. I haven't seen any of the I haven't seen any of the reboot ones. I didn't see the. Oh no, I guess I did watch the one. What was it? Liev Schreiber and
the remake. Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, it was fine. It's just unnecessary. Why would you remake the greatest horror movie ever made? There's just no point.
Right.
But I mean, it was fine.
It was better than part 4. Part 4 was just a TV cheap.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those other ones. I actually think the second one is a really good movie. I think it's overlooked. People don't realize, I think, just how good of a horror movie The Omen 2 is. I think it's fantastic.
I thought it was watchable.
It's not as good as the first one. No, really, just watchable. I think it's great.
I'll get part 3. Sam Neill just steals the show for me, even though it feels like it could easily be a totally different sequel, if that makes sense.
You like the third one better than the second one?
Just a tad. It's a very evil movie. Just seeing Damien all grown up and just kind of respond, so to speak. He's now kind of in a political seat of power, just unleashing his mayhem.
Yeah, the third one had some interesting deaths in it. That was these movies sort of became that as they went on, like what interesting ways can we kill people in.
There was that, but it wasn't like shock and gross out like like you would see nowadays if they had to do something like that. I just thought it was just kind of comfortable being its own thing compared to the Exorcist sequels, and we did kind of do some compare and contrast where part 3 is actually better than a lot of people give it credit for. It's just but don't get me wrong, Omen 2 is great compared to Exorcist 2, which is that's not a movie.
But just the first one, I love everything about it. It's just such an interesting movie.
And it doesn't hit you over the head with the religious imagery. It's just like, okay, you know what they are, and they have our emotional support. Nowadays, if a movie had to do that, it would sneak in so many factors to where it's like, good grief, you guys just can't make a movie without pissing someone off. And here, this is like, okay, they're of the religious ordeal. They're of a respectable affiliation. They're not, going to be heavy-handed with the imagery, and they're not going to force you to think a certain way. It's just, hey, we got basically a home invasion, but it's in the form of our kid.
Was this movie? I can't remember. Was this movie controversial when it came out?
It wasn't, to my recollection, but and I couldn't find anything on it. But I'm just saying, nowadays everything would have to be just all over the top. It's like this wouldn't. And if it did come out like this, someone would just kind of suspect that, oh, it played it safe. And it's like, oh my God, really?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned a home invasion, but it's our kid, because it occurs to me that this film is one of the first ones that I'm aware of. Although I did watch the original Village of the Damned the other day. That takes
Oh, really?
That takes parenting. Because being a new parent is terrifying and strange for everybody who does it. This is like she's got this kid, and she thinks there's something wrong, and everyone's just kind of poo-pooing her. Oh no, they don't say postpartum. I don't think in this postpartum depression, but they just medicate her and they think it's her. And she's like, no, really, it's my kid. There's something wrong with my kid. And
right,
I got that. And Village of the Damned had that vibe too, although those kids were obviously fucked up because they had the glowing eyes and the white hair. But it's interesting because that's a big movie trope now is, that's not my kid. There's that Hole in the Ground movie that I need to watch, right? The kid comes back and it's not my kid. And
I think so.
The Babadook, is that how it is? The
Babadook, yeah.
Babadook, that was like that, right?
I couldn't get into that one, but a lot of people praise that one with how they show how this household is just becoming a whole, battleground.
Yeah, her whole life, she's a single mom, and her whole life is hell because her kid's difficult.
Totally.
Yeah, this is an early version of that.
What are your favorite movies inspired by the whole 666?
Well, this one obviously. What other satanic movies?
We mentioned End of Days as being kind of a silly Schwarzenegger fest.
Yeah, that one's better than it deserves to be. I think I enjoy it more than it deserves. It's just
entertaining.
That's all. Schwarzenegger when he goes into full, you think you're a bad boy. What does he say? Yeah, you haven't seen.
You're a fucking choir boy compared to me, a choir boy. Yeah,
that was Gabriel. Didn't Gabriel Byrne play Satan in that one?
Absolutely. And speaking of which, he's in another movie from that same year of '99 called Stigmata, which I actually recommend for the visuals alone.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. That's Patricia Arquette, right?
Right. I
haven't seen it.
It's just a laid back. Bless the Child's also kind of a fun movie. It's not goofy, but it is kind of over the top, and it has Kim Basinger and Jimmy Smits, and it was by the Chuck Russell, who did Eraser and Nightmare on Elm Street Free. So
I was just thinking of the Brood. Have you ever seen The Brood?
Oh, The Brood, The Brood.
Yeah, I think that was the Cronenberg film.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
About the weird. Yeah, that's another like
a
kid,
movie
or It's Alive. Remember It's Alive? That's
a
classic mutant baby.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have a bunch of Larry Cohen fans on this show, and that's definitely a good contrast. Another one that he does around that same time, that's actually 2 years before this one, is God Told Me To.
Oh man, really? I haven't even.
And that's just kind of a nut. That's exactly what it implies, just showing someone going on a killing spree. And I compare it to this one because, nowadays everything has to be millions of dollars on outrageous effects shots that either date well or don't. And with this one, I really have to hand it to it because much like God Told Me To, it does really good job of just showing lighting and oversaturated colors to portray a larger than life force instead of, got to have someone on with cheesy makeup or some shit. Can anyone think of a actual demented, image? This movie's very limited in, blood use and, other graphicness and especially makeup. So, most of it is just, red eyes and moody close-ups to set a tone,
I love Richard Donner, one of my favorite directors. I mean, he directed the original Superman, with Christopher Reeves, and
absolutely
16 Blocks, which is an overlooked gem, I think, of an action movie. I love that film so much.
Absolutely.
Of course, the Lethal Weapon movies, which you can take them or leave them, I guess.
Well, very much so. But yeah, 16 Blocks was a pretty good way to go out on compared to other people who just do a movie where there's just there's no love in it. And that one definitely had some love.
Yeah, it's got an emotional punch to it, doesn't it? 16 Blocks.
Yeah, especially if you see the twist ending. He's done a lot of other beloved movies, but Inside Moves is one of my parents' favorite movies, and that's another kind of dramedy. And I mean, for fuck's sake, he did multiple episodes of Canon, The Fugitive, and Tales from the Crypt. So I mean, he had a great career. I think he was definitely. This is definitely one of his best movies. I definitely see a lot of people bring it up along with all the Lethal Weapons and the ones you described. Because
I think it's almost perfect. I think it's almost perfect. You get
right.
David Warner. David Warner is the photographer.
A very rare mainstream role for him, before he became Mr. Direct-to-Video Ben, because you have a lot. It's an unusual mixture of American and English talents. I mean, Lance Henriksen's in part 2, and part 3 was one of Sam Neill's earliest.
Yes, he was great. He was great in part 2.
Right.
And I love in the first one, Mrs. Blaylock, one of the most terrifying film villains of all time, if you ask me. She scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah, very much. And I think that's the best way to do it. Because nowadays they would have just so many doppelgangers and just other stuff that wouldn't necessarily mesh well. And this one, everything meshes well because it's going somewhere. And no one's playing around. Everybody is just legit saying, uh-oh, we got to do something. Something's not right in this. It's just an unusual town, kind of rural area, not a village, but it might as well be kind of a village, kind of like the remake does, because it's just showing how everybody is essentially just off their rocker a bit. Everything's unusual. And if I had to compare its influence in other satanic thrillers, I think Poltergeist would be a good comparison. Just that right amount of just build up the amount of suspense and then leave all the shock value and startling images for the second half. And it definitely does that way better, because I see other movies do it now. They take their sweet ass time trying to set a mood, let alone merit any interest. And so many of them will often just copy scenes because they have either no budget or originality to speak of. And it's just always a shame, especially when they gather bigger name actors and the movie just ends up being a flop. So if you're going to study if you're not into anything that's too graphic, or you want something that's agreeable for everybody, definitely watch this kind of movie. This might even make you a light horror fan, if not a hardcore one. If you want something that's not necessarily bloody, but still kind of shocking and holds your attention with just moody suspense and just solid characterization, that this is definitely one I would recommend for indie filmmakers and people trying to get into movies of various genres. So, and that's what I try and focus on this show.
I remember David Warner's death was quite shocking for its day. I remember reading a magazine article at the time, and it was sort of bemoaning how movies have become so violent. It was talking about Alien and this, and his death was quite shocking for its day.
I think so, and I think even on TV edits, you can't really edit it, so they would often show it very.
Well, I think it's tame enough for TV today. I don't think they.
Right.
but at the time, it was really, really shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And Mrs. Blaylock's death, when he stab her in the neck with it's like a fondue fork or something, and the hilt breaks off, and she's got that crazy kind of rictus grin on her face as she dies. I'm sorry that she gave me nightmares when I was a kid.
Right, and just the shocking ending in the very first one is like how police.
I love a downbeat ending like that. Those are great.
But it's done in a right way, as opposed to just feeling last minute. Is like, yeah, the father has unusual suspicions, but never once does he really think this is until the very end. And so then cops come in, shoot him to death, thinking he's about to kill his kid. It's like, jeez.
Yeah, and then you see him holding the hand of, what you hear is the president, because the security guard says, "Mr. President, it's time to go." Very, very, I can't say enough good things about The Omen, and love the second one too. The third one, I could take it or leave it, I think.
I totally recommend it.
Maybe I'll go back and revisit. Oh, and Lee Remick in this, beautiful Lee Remick, who died way too young. We lost her too soon. She's beautiful in this.
Faces in the Crowd and The Blue Knight. Yeah,
does a great job of the mother who's slowly losing her mind, and everybody thinks it's her, and she knows it's really not her.
In fact, I might even have to rewatch it again after we're done with this. It's just I can't say enough.
Like with the goldfish, the scene where she's on the ladder and he knocks her off with his bike, and just the way the camera lingers on the goldfish bowl falling in slow motion. Just an amazing film all the way around. It's love. Just like I said, I can't say enough good things about it. I'm gonna watch. It's on the TV. I put it on while I'm talking. I'm gonna go ahead and watch the whole damn thing.
Perfect. But no, that's true. It's just one of those kind of inoffensive. And I know some people are going to be like, we don't make movies for people who, are very over emotional, very easily offended. But at the same time, I mean, even if you were one of those, I can't have any movie that has demons or anything in this one would still be red or tame because it's not, promoting any.
I don't think there's too many of those people in your audience, though.
Thank God. I know. I'm just putting that
offended. They got the wrong podcast if they're offended by, satanic imagery in film. I think they got the wrong podcast.
Probably. More or less. So, if you want anything to promote, please do so here. If not, just once again.
No, I don't promote anything. Well, can I promote another podcast?
Sure.
Because I'm on that House That Screams podcast, and I would recommend that to anybody who loves horror films too. And short of that, all I can say is wash your hands, wear your masks, and be kind.
There you go. Okay. Thanks forever so much for putting the finishing touches to the overview of why this has made a lasting impression.
Yes, everybody go out and watch the first one right now.
Woo!
All right.
Peace out.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up